Welcome to Info Support videos. My name is Karthik. Today we're going to discuss about DataVault Performance Tuning. The memory allocation with respect to DataVault is with this calculation, that is the agent count into memory plus 5 GB should be allocated for the SSA server. So this memory calculation should be lesser than the total available memory on the server, that is the RAM. So the agent count memory can be found under the ssa.ini file which exists under the DataVault home directory. There are two properties which is in reference to the memory. One is the memory, another one is max vmem. So the max vmem is the total memory, the maximum memory which can be used by an agent. Resource allocation is with respect to the number of agents which is being used while we are querying the data. So one agent will be processing ACT files, that is the two pair. One is the metadata, another one is the data. So we have two different ACT files, that is underscore a.act and another one is underscore u.act. So these ACT files should be combined in order to display the output to the user that will have both the metadata and the data. So this SSAU utility will be used in two places. One is while loading the data, that is when it will split the ACT files into two, and when we query the data, so that will combine the splitted ACT files and it will display the output. The number of agents can be specified according to the number of CPU cores available on the server. So how much ever the number of CPU cores available on the corresponding DataVault server should be the maximum number of the agents which we can specify. So this is the base calculation. So according to the issue, it can be modified. So in case if the number of CPU cores available on the DataVault server machine is 8, then maximum of 8 agents can be specified. When DataVault is the only service which is running on that corresponding server, then we need to have the calculation. We can have the below calculation. So say for example, if you have 16 GB RAM available on that server which has 8 CPU cores, below memory can be allocated in the ssa.ini. That is, we specified 1.5 GB as the memory and 6 GB as the maximum memory. So, and the agent count is of 7. So when we do the calculation with respect to the formula which is shown in the previous slide, 7 agents into 1.5 GB, that is 10.5 GB, and 5 GB should be allocated for the SSA server, that is by default. So the total memory is 15.5 GB, which is still lesser than 16 GB. So this should be the optimum calculation. And one thing which we need to make sure that is the difference between the memory and the max vmem should at least be 2 GB. When the ILM and IDV are running on the same server, we need to add one more value to the calculation which is given above. So the XMX value of the ILM service. So this can be captured from the SSA. This can be captured from the start application.sh file which exists under the ILM home, which we use to start the ILM service. So the XMX value is the maximum heap space which can be utilized by an ILM process. So this memory has to be added. So in this case, it is 1024M, that is 1 GB. So this should be added to the above calculation. Accordingly, we need to make sure that it is not crossing the total available memory on the server. When there are other services running on the same server with respect to ILM, along with ILM and IDV, so we need to add that memory as well, and we need to make sure that we are allocating proper memory for ILM and IDV. So the calculation will become like, so already we are adding the XMX value of ILM, and we need to add the heap memory allocated for the other services as well to this calculation, so that we will make sure that the total memory of this calculation is less than the available RAM on the server. There are two type of threads which we can specify in the ssa.ini. One is with the query, another one is with the server. The query threads will be utilizing the memory which is mentioned in the memory and max vmem property, and the server threads will be utilizing the 5 GB which we allocated for the SSA server. So considering these two, it will be used. So if we have more clients with which we are connecting to the IDV server in order to query the data, we can increase the thread mentioned under the server. So please reach out to GCS if you need any optimum recommendation with the available server details. This is one issue which is with respect to the available memory, that is fail to allocate memory. In this case, this will be displayed when the available agent is not able to process the request with respect to the memory. So if the memory is getting exhausted and if the agents are not able to utilize the memory, then this message will be displayed. So in this case, say for example, we have 6 GB and 2 GB as memory and 6 GB as a maximum memory, and number of available agent is 6. So when this message is displayed, what we can do is we can reduce the agent count. Say for example, we can make the agent count as 3, so that we need to increase the memory on the other side. So the memory can be doubled since we reduce the agent count by 2, so we can double the memory. So we can specify 4 GB as the memory and 8 or 10 GB as the maximum memory, so that this memory issue, the fail to allocate memory issue, will be taken care. Another issue which will happen with respect to the agent is no available agent to process the query. So this will happen when the when so like I mentioned earlier, one agent will be processing one ACT file. So if the available agents are not enough to process the complete ACT files, which is in reference to the table, then this message will be displayed. In this case, we need to reduce the memory and we need to increase the agent. So here we have the agent count of 6. So we need to increase the agent count to 8 or 12, and then we need to reduce the memory to 512 MB or 1 GB, so that the total memory will not be exhausted. So whatever we discussed on this one, so if we fail to allocate memory, then we need to reduce the agent count and we need to increase the memory. In return, if the number of agents are not available, if that error message is displayed, then we need to reduce the memory and we need to increase the number of agents which can be used to process the query. So for any optimum recommendation regarding the memory, server threads, or the number of agents, please reach out to Informatica Global Customer Support. Thank you.